Hello, everyone. Happy Andor Wednesday. Although we were just talking about the movie Ginger Snaps, which is also really good.
It is very good. If you have not seen it and you like interesting takes on werewolves, it's a really good one.
It is. As we have creepy flickering
lights
exactly. happening to our right.
Look, I feel like that's appropriate for the horror chat show that we have now delved into here. We were discussing how there is a bit of a prototype for Jennifer's body present in Ginger Snaps.
Spooky season is never over in
never
our hearts.
over.
But we're going to talk about Andor. Just Em and I this week. Lon couldn't make it. But man, what an episode.
Oh my gosh.
I see the first comment before we even went live was Al Moses 210. Sorry, I'm not saying your name right. I've got so many feelings on this episode. So do we. Full spoilers for One Way Out. Episode 10.
It was so funny because when the title first flashed by me, obviously we knew this was going to be a Prison Break episode.
Right.
And right now on our Twitch channel, which is twitch.tv/fandom, shameless plug, Bailey and I are playing a Prison Break game called A Way Out.
Uh-huh.
So for a second I was like, wait, is this episode called A Way Out? So I was like, if you enjoyed A Way Out Andor, you might also enjoy watching Bailey and me play A Way Out, the video game. The episode of Andor was actually named One Way Out. But you know what? I still stand by it.
Yeah, and it's a great way to tell people to watch that. Also, I keep thinking No Way Out is obviously a go-to phrase. It is also a movie. But this is not that. This is One Way Out. And we talked last week, obviously, about, Andy Serkis and Kino and how, we just met this character 2 weeks ago, but we really, very successfully, I think, got this entire incredible arc for him here.
Oh, truly. I mean, that is the thing that I've said a lot of times about the show that is so incredibly masterful is the writing and the very intelligent use of the medium of film. I mean, in this case, it's television, but of something being on film where just through some very well-written phrasing and like meaningful looks between actors, you do learn so much about characters' relationships with one another and with their environment in a very short period of time.
Yeah. Now, they so successfully showed us what the situation in this prison is, who Kino is in the structure of this, and what it would take to get him to finally sort of see the light, the darkness and the light, to make him change his ways. And it was so effective last week, of course, the death of this old man who, Kino was invested himself, and you're getting out soon, and seeing that there is no getting out. Or there's one way out, as we learn here. And even the beginning of this episode, it's like we see that he's a changed man already, but he's still like, even though he gave Cassian the there's never more than 12 thing, he's still, his very first thing is to be like, where would we go?
Yeah.
Still be like, well, okay, I'm on your side, but I still don't think this is realistic.
Totally. Well, because I mean, basically Cassian's like, okay, well, we have to do this tomorrow. It's the only day that we're going to be able to do this. We know they're going to replace a man. That's our opportunity because the guards are all going to come in, and that's when we can attack. And again, they have to replace an entire floor of people, so they know that they're going to have the lightest amount of actual physical human security that they're going to have maybe ever again. So looking at it, okay, this is our one opportunity to escape. But you do understand Kino's hesitancy because he is like, you don't have a plan.
Yeah. It's a very minuscule plan.
Yeah.
And it basically has, when we see the plan actually happen, and it's very exciting, very, very tense, because we don't quite understand what he's doing, and it works so well. Like, we know he's trying to break this pipe in the bathroom.
Right.
We saw it the last weekend that they were waiting for the elevator and all this, but we're not sure exactly. And the plan is what it has to be, which is, hey, everyone just try.
Yeah.
And they must know people are going to get shot and killed, which is what happens. And then even it turns out, it makes sense when it turns out that they're flooding the room because they know they'll turn on the electricity and it'll fry it, they hope. But also, they're going to lose some people when that happens, which also is what happens. But it's there's that line about, like, I'd rather die doing this than die
giving them what they want.
Exactly. And I think that that's so, this does such a great job of showing that and making it so evocative.
And it's so essential to the development of Cassian Andor as a character, because again, this is somebody who we have seen largely being effectively on his own side.
Yes.
Throughout the vast majority of the show.
Purposely
up to this point.
choosing, I will not do anything actively. Yeah.
Totally. And it's one of those things where he keeps kind of getting roped into being involved in things. In the first case, it was, okay, well, I need to get off this planet and make money. There was this whole mess here. And then in this case, it was he accidentally happened to observe some crazy shenanigans and was accused of being part of it and thus brought into this prison. But here we're really seeing him develop as, he is acting in his own interest, but he's also, with Kino in this case, seeing that, okay, well, if we work together, they are arrogant, they doubt our abilities, we can overwhelm them.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I see, we'll do more AMA later, obviously, but Brent Dreher, I saw you're mentioning that based on the opening, that your read was that the never more than 12 from last week was Kino saying, shut up and leave me alone. I don't think it was that, because I do think we saw last week that he never before now would have even given up that information. That something had fundamentally changed in him, that he feels like, I'm going to give this guy information who I know is actively trying for a prison rig. Yet still, it's like he's going to need a little extra push, a little more like, should we do this or not? And again, there's, Andy Serkis giving such a phenomenal performance in this episode, because we see these moments build. And even when he first screams, he screams, no one is getting out, when Cassian's trying to get everyone to on board with this. But that's not him saying there's no point in doing this. This is him saying, okay, let's be real. Finally.
Well, because that was so much of the conversation that Cassian was having with him, that, what are there supposed to be 5,000 prisoners there, I think is what he said. So 5,000 men are about to find out that they are going to die in prison, whether it be this prison or another one. That was why they eradicated that whole floor, was because they found out that, no, when you get out, you just get, your sentences are a joke. You just get transferred to another prison, and they killed everybody to hide that information, showing how, desperate they were to keep that secret. And so Cassian seeing this opportunity to capitalize on that and say, hey, there's a bunch of people who are about to be rallied to action because they're angry. And it's not...
And they're all going to have, their one sliver of hope is about to be taken away.
Exactly. And that's the thing. He's saying we have these angry people, and basically by giving them this little spark of hope, we can mobilize these people.
Because, it's the 1-2 punch. It's like, we're going to tell you, hey, they never actually intend to let you go ever. And so this is your time. This is your time to rise up, now or never. And it's just done so well. And there were so many little touches I loved. I loved the shot of the Imperials cowering.
Oh my God, that was so amazing. Once all the prisoners on all the floors were running towards the one exit. And they were all hiding, because there's no way that they can stand up to 5,000 prisoners.
I mean, we should mention, of course, Kino Serkis has this great speech when Cassian kind of has to push him to give the motivating speech. But it's this great moment of him talking. I really love the thing where he says about, if we work half as much as we've worked for them to do this escape, we can get home.
We can do it.
And the Imperials, who we know are vastly outnumbered, hearing this, it makes sense that most of them are like, oh shit, let's let's hide.
Because again, it goes back to a lot of what I think Andor does a really good job of portraying, that a lot of these positions within the Empire, these are just people's jobs.
They're doing their jobs.
They're just guys doing their
jobs. Some
are
true believers, some are not, and they're all just
exactly.
punching the clock.
Yep.
And so, most of those guys are not going to be like, no, for the glory of the Empire, I will. No, they're like,
no,
there's 5,000
those guys
prisoners.
are like, this was working great for me, but I didn't sign up to die.
Right. So I'm just going to hide right there.
Yeah.
Obviously, a very crowd-pleasing moment when Cassian gets to say on program now.
Yes. That was so good.
Also, what was there was a very funny little, again, the show manages to have little subtle moments of humor that I appreciate, which is when they go into that sort of control room and they're like, turn it off. And the guy says, that can mean so many things.
Yes. that was a really, really great moment.
That was very funny. And how quickly his subordinate sold him out.
Totally. He has the thing to totally shut down. Well, that was a funny conversation too about shutting down the power. And so they switch it off and he's like, no. Don't just switch it off. I need you to power the whole thing down. And he's like, But if we do, it'll take weeks to get back online.
Right. Yeah, like they're going to be upset about, oh, no, we wouldn't want to hurt the Empire.
Yeah,
for all
exactly.
these
Like,
weeks.
come on, dude.
And then, of course, I mean, we're going to talk about other, storylines here, but the way this episode, not the very end of the episode.
No.
Andor's got
that was a good ending.
There was, but the way that the prison break itself ended, which was this amazing, heartbreaking moment for Kino.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, that the guy who I believe first says one way out.
Yeah.
He knew he was never getting out.
Yeah.
Can't swim. 2 words
Look,
to just like.
I still stand by no body, no death.
Yeah.
So I'm not convinced that he's definitely dead, but I think the implication is certainly that he's not gonna be able to get out.
Well, that's what mine too. It's funny because I've seen I've already seen people be like, oh, we're gonna see Miro question him, which could happen.
Sure.
But there's a part of me that feels it's more dramatically impactful if we never see him again.
Yeah.
The implication being either he's killed for being a part of the leadership of this, or he just goes back to a hellish life as a prisoner forever.
Yeah.
Both are possible.
Yeah.
It's also possible next week Didra is questioning him.
Yeah.
But no matter what, it was.
I kind of want to not see him again.
I don't either. And it's right. It's so weird. We're saying like we really love this
I
character.
know he was unbelievable.
But it's sort of most powerful if we don't see him again.
Like this ending was so beautiful for him because again, like we saw this whole character arc in a very short period of time. He was only in 3 episodes, and and we really got a good understanding of who this character is. And ultimately, when Cassian is encouraging somebody to put out the rallying cry to the people in the prison, he says, it has to be you because you are somebody that, again, we
you were a voice of authority.
Exactly right. We talked about this a lot last week, this whole idea of if you give people the illusion that they have a little bit of control or power over their peers, then they will be on your side even though you don't actually care about them. And so seeing Kino be the one to go, look, they did give me this little bit of power and I was the one who was able to provide this critical information that basically let Cassian know, yes, it is possible for us to stage this prison break.
Yeah.
And now he is the one rallying everybody to action. It was really beautiful.
It was great. It was so great. And we should mention that the very, very end of the episode, we'll get to the Luthen part later, but the very end of the episode is seeing Cassian, reaching shore with Melshi, who we mentioned is in Rogue One. So because we know both these dudes are going to join the Alliance proper.
Yeah.
So whether they split off or be like, catch you later.
Totally. I liked too that a lot of the messaging behind the prison break was if you see a man who needs help, you grab him, you get him moving. There was this real sort of brotherhood and cooperation behind getting out of prison.
And they again, without being the crux of the episode or these characters that were like central, quick shots of people not sure what to do.
Right, yeah.
And we saw the doctor, the medic from last week kind of wandering around, that people, like everyone wouldn't be like, okay. Like some people would be like, I don't know.
What do I do?
Yeah.
Totally.
Do I do this? Is it worse if I do this?
Yeah.
And I like that we just saw those little glimpses of that because that tells like its own little story there. So obviously the A story was amazing in this episode, but there were a couple other great sequences for other characters. We met Davo, This
Davo.
episode. Found out Davo's deal. And yeah.
Yeah, Davo, man. So, again, obviously we knew Mon Mothma was hesitant to treat with this man.
Yeah, did not think this was a good idea to use this guy.
And again, really masterful writing where they're talking around the fact that they are supporting a rebellion. Mm-hmm. And then basically he names his price.
Which I love that she won't let him go because he's just like, oh, no price. And she's like, I don't want to owe you a favor.
No.
Like, she's very blunt about like,
No.
You have to tell me the price. And then he's so subtly.
Yeah. Oh, I would like to, bring my 14-year-old son
to meet your 13-year-old daughter. Yeah. And we know about their people and their marriage traditions.
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, it's not good. Even though he's like, oh, I'm just saying it's an introduction. Clearly, we understand that he wants them to be married, that he thinks this will be great for his, sort of standing.
Totally.
And she is having none of it. However, of course, this being Andor, you have to wonder, will she give in on this?
Yeah. I mean, that's,
implications of
again,
that.
what is so fascinating about this show is there is so much self-sacrifice and questionable behavior on the part of the quote-unquote
good guys,
which is very much what that whole scene with Luthen is about at the end.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like her daughter, she's like a bratty teenager.
Yes.
But but you certainly wouldn't be like, marry her off to this scumbag son.
Oh my
and
God.
if Mon Mothma makes this decision, it's going to be like it'll be a personally wrenching one for her.
Oh, yeah.
But also it'll be, like you're mentioning, a show that is always about like gray area and good guys doing some pretty bad things in the name of a greater good. This is her being asked, and can she get out of this because she needs this guy right now? Again, we know one day she's going to take off from Coruscant and say, screw being a senator.
Totally.
But right now she needs to keep up this front, and this guy's an important part of that. So, yeah, that was all very interesting. And that actor who played Davo, who I forgot to look up who he was, but he was very good.
Yeah, he was very good.
I want to mention before we go to the Luthen of it all, the only slight criticism I'd have of this episode was I thought it was a little weird that we even got that one little part of Cinta watching. We didn't see Marva.
We didn't. They were just talking about how she wouldn't take her medicine.
She wouldn't take her medicine. Cinta's watching her, but we kind of already knew Cinta was watching her.
Yeah, well, because Cinta was like, I'm going to stay behind on this planet and rent this apartment.
Yeah. It was a little weird. I wonder were there more scenes they cut?
Yeah.
Because I didn't quite know why it was in the episode at all.
I agree. I had truly forgotten about it until I saw it on this rundown, and I went like, oh yeah, there was that one random scene that never came back around, and that's not super normal for Andor, wherein again most 3-episode clusters are a pretty succinct story. There's a beginning, middle, and end to all of the storylines going on, and they all have a purpose to them. So this is clearly one where the purpose is going to pay off later. But
it was just even stranger when the previously on made sure to kind of remind you of the situation as if this episode would have a big subplot about it.
Yeah, it sure didn't.
So yeah, I wonder if something changed structurally and maybe there were scenes shot that we'll see later. It was kind of weird. But that criticism aside, let's get to Luthen coming at the end. Again, Andor is a funny show structurally because even though this ended on a strong note, you still would have thought that maybe they would have just ended with the prison break.
Totally.
But they ended with a great scene. First of all, we have to talk about our man Lonnie.
Poor Lonnie.
This was great because he's just been around since the beginning, but there's been several other ISB guys who've been around. They never spent extra time on him.
Yeah.
They never give a look. I love that. Because it could have been any of those other guys.
Yep.
And that was what made it great, was like, one of those guys is actually a spy.
Yep. I remember as he was like walking down that corridor and getting in the elevator, I was like,
what's
this guy, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I remember him. I've seen him. He looks familiar.
What's funny is that earlier in the episode, he had a really good moment where he was where they're talking about this whole plan to trick Krieger, Krieger, right?
Yes.
And the whole thing where they killed the pilot, but then made it look like he had like a medical thing. He had this idea that we need to publicly investigate this because it would be suspicious if we didn't. And I love again on this show that the bad guys are very smart.
Yeah.
And you can admire these fascists in their in how clever they are, even though they're terrible, terrible people. So at that point, I'm just like, oh, it's another great moment of seeing the ISB being, especially the ISB, because sometimes we've seen incompetent Imperials, but it's like, well, this is the group who wouldn't be incompetent.
Yeah.
And so I like that a lot. But then it turns out that he's playing 4D poker, man.
Yeah,
he's got a lot going on there.
A lot of sides, and all. Yeah, I mean, because as you say, Eric, like that is another thing about this show. I saw a bunch of people tweeting last week photos of Deidre Ramiro saying, "Oh, this is the scariest villain in Star Wars, like way scarier than Darth Vader because she's just a smart person,
right? Working for an awful cause,
yeah."
Yeah, that is just there's something very scary about that, especially the more we see of this.
Yes.
So learning Lonnie is actually this like deep cover spy for Luthen that 6 years now
has been working with him.
But like you said, it's like quite a scene for Luthen because look, it is clearly a threat when he is like, congratulations on your daughter. It is a very horrible thing for him to bring up, and even though he can play it off, it's like, but then as the scene goes on, he's basically like, yes, I have sold my soul.
Yes.
And I know that.
Well, and that is so in line with, I think, what we were getting from Luthen as a character previously of, again, he's making all of these. They're not even questionable. They are calculated decisions. He knows he is doing bad things, and I'm sure that had we seen Luthen earlier in his journey, it would be painful for him.
Yeah.
But I love a character that goes, I'm in too deep now, and this is who I am now, and I've given up everything. I have no human connections. I have no one who loves me. I am all alone, and now basically I am this cold, calculating person who is able to make difficult decisions and sacrifice human life for the greater good because I gave up the compassionate part of my soul.
Right. And he mentions that basically this all happened 15 years ago. 15 years ago is when the Empire became the Empire.
Yep.
So this is just a guy who just, the second that Palpatine made that speech in Revenge of the Sith, he's like, well, this is awful.
Yeah.
And that changed the course of his life and changed like who he is as a person.
Yep.
And yeah, it's really does like hold the whole show, his speech there, because he's like, look, what was the exact line he has about like, basically like fighting for the, I put my life, make a sunrise I know I'll never see. And yeah, just like the fact that like the greater good question, which comes up a lot here, this is a guy who just is unlike Mon Mothma, who's still kind of holding back.
Right.
And I don't think there's one call on whether she's right or wrong to do that. No. But she has these hesitations that he just does not.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think that, again, I just really want to praise the writing and also Stellan Skarsgård's acting in this scene, because it's so easy for this to slip into, oh, poor you territory.
Right.
But that is not how it felt at all. There was so much gravitas to this scene, and for me watching it, I was like, man, I understand why he's doing what he's doing, and it's awful.
Yeah, no, it is. And for Lonnie, he's like, nope, you're no matter what you're saying, you're sticking around.
Yep.
You're basically screwed because you're trapped in this situation that I'm not going to let you out of. The Empire's not going to let you out of. But it does add like a whole sort of great new layer to understanding that. This show.
God, such a good show.
This show is...
Damn, this show's good.
Why is this show so good? Thank you for subscribing. Like us if you haven't. Other stuff you should look for on this very channel. Kim and I have a review of Black Panther Wakanda Forever that you can look for right now. And on Monday, I feel... Ryan's not around today, but I think I'm safe in saying this. We talked about it yesterday. I think Monday we're going to do a spoiler chat for Wakanda Forever. It's a little tricky with the holiday weekend. We were going to do it Friday, and then we realized we're all off on Friday.
Yeah.
But we're going to try to do that on Monday. I'm 90% sure we will. So look for that on Monday. And then Emma, what do we've got going on
Well,
Twitch?
I already told you that if you like Prison Breaks, and clearly you do, because you just watched an episode of Andor that was all about a prison break, boy, do I have a treat for you, because over on twitch.tv/fandom, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, because we're now in Standard Time, not Daylight Time. Bailey and I are continuing to play A Way Out from Hazel Light Studios. It is a co-op prison break game. We have played through the first section, Escape. If you missed it, you can go over to the Twitch channel, again, twitch.tv/fandom, and check out the VOD. I have made a nice little playlist of all the Fandom Game Club installments, with that one being at the very top, because that's the latest one. And yeah, we're continuing the game tomorrow, and oh my goodness, it is so much fun. Truly an incredible achievement in multiplayer co-op, and also, even though you can play online co-op, the couch co-op experience is clearly how it was meant to be experienced, because they do a lot of really interesting things with the shifting of the split camera, and it's just, oh my God, it's fabulous. So please come hang out with us. We have a blast.
Do that. And then I also wanted to mention a article of Kim's. It's not quite up yet, but I believe it'll be up later today. If not, it'll be up tomorrow. That you should check out if you're an Andor fan, and if you're not, what are you doing watching this? Where she talked to Bill Willimon, the writer of this arc, and she talked to the costume designer and one of the producers, and they kind of focused on really something we've talked a lot about, the sort of 70s sci-fi aesthetic and their approach to this whole storyline. So check that out. And then on our Wikipedia spotlight this week, we just want to mention you should check out the page for Jandara. This was a planet that was actually quickly mentioned last week by Miro. She mentioned that when she was telling Bix about the information they got from Pak, the store owner, she talked about how he attended his first separatist meeting on this planet Jandara, and that's what led to him kind of making these side deals, bringing Bix into it. This is, again, and they love to do this in Star Wars, and this is where we talk about people like Pablo Hidalgo, who no doubt helped make this happen, which is mention something that's like deep lore Star Wars. In this case, this is a planet that's from the old Star Wars, the Old Republic game. And make the non-canon canon.
Exactly. Well, or I think in the case of a lot of those Star Wars video games, they sort of live in a realm of questionably canon. So they're definitely canonizing things officially. But yeah, Jandora is a planet that, again, I don't actually think it appears within the game. It's simply a planet that is mentioned during
introduced
one of the
in that game by mention.
Exactly. And then it's mentioned again in Andor now. And you know what? Someday we'll go to Jandora and see what it looks like.
And find out that's where the Yodas come from. Well, look at the AMA. First of all, Owl Mosais 210 mentions something I've seen a lot of people say, a similar thing on Twitter. And I understand right now we're like feeling the rush and all. And we have to see how both the season ends and also how the series, which is only going to be 2 seasons, ends. But says this may be my favorite Star Wars thing ever. And I'm hearing a lot of people say that.
Yeah, I mean,
it's up there.
Oh boy, it's up there for me. I mean, I'm going to be real with you. There has been so much good television this year. Severance, The Bear, Players, this is making a hard run for my top show of 2022. I'm blown away by how good this is.
It really is. And Kaori mentions how it's so good. Performances by Serkis and Skarsgård, Emmy worthy perhaps.
Man, I would love to see this show get nominated for Emmys outside of artistic and technical. I'd love to see it get nominated for some acting Emmys, because I think Skarsgård definitely deserves a nomination.
And I think Serkis too. And I will say this:
could Serkis be nominated in like a miniseries category?
He'd probably nominated for a guest, which actually gives him a better shot.
Yes, that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, because unfortunately, I think it's well worth being nominated, and I would even put it up there. Looking like for best series, it probably won't, because it's an uphill battle for a show like this. Not impossible.
Yeah, not impossible.
Just a little more of an uphill battle. But Serkis for guest feels like a very strong possibility.
Yes. Yeah.
So crossing the fingers that he at least gets a nomination.
Yeah, incredible.
And ST Rapness follows that by saying 2 of the best speeches in Star Wars history.
Oh yeah. And again, so the writing was outstanding, and they were so well performed. What we're seeing here is just what happens when a lot of really talented people who know what they're doing work together. Like, that's what this is.
No, yeah, it's something special here.
Yeah.
Alex Williams mentions there are a lot of ways Kino could live. He could be questioned, get in prison, get killed, find his way to the rebellion, drowned after being pushed off, never be seen, or turn into Snoke. And Zeno Hauer follows that by saying, Kino Loy, quote, I can't swim. Well, I guess I'll become Supreme Leader Snoke.
Isn't Snoke supposed to be like a clone?
Yes. Jars of Snoke. We talked about the Jars of Snoke. Yeah. But look, they can retcon a retcon.
That's what happens. He drowns. They find him. They take his
Palpatine's
cells.
Like, this guy. How Palpatine found Anakin all burnt on Mustafar? Instead he just finds the bloated drowned corpse of Kino. But it's like, I shall make a Snoke.
Oh my God.
There he goes. That would be the darkest future of all, honestly. Yep. It's a dark show.
Yep.
Darth Relum says that banker talking with Mon Mothma had the most obvious bad guy face since Palpatine.
Obvious bad guy face. That's so
I don't even think he's trying to hide it. It's just he's we've talked a lot about the people who are just enjoying life under the Empire, and this is a guy who has he's obviously supposed to be a very shady character. Who,
I mean, this is a plays both sides kind of guy. I mean, I know there's a lot of complaints about the Canto Bight stuff specifically in The Last Jedi, but what was really important about that was the scene with DJ where they get on the ship and they discover that, these people were war profiteering. Mm-hmm. And that's totally what this guy's doing.
Yeah, because Brenter here follows that saying, I think he was a banker the way Tony Soprano worked in sanitation. Well, I'll say not quite, because he is a banker.
He is a banker.
But it's he's a lawyer like Saul Goodman is a lawyer.
Yeah, he's a lawyer like Saul Goodman. Yeah, because Saul Goodman is actually a lawyer.
Actually a lawyer. It's just he's a criminal lawyer. This guy is a criminal banker living his best, worst life. Christmas saying, I think I don't think most people appreciate how well done this series has been. Just the writing, score, performance is so subtle but so difficult to do. I mean, that's the thing is coming into the show.
Chris Smith, I appreciate it. We appreciate it here for sure.
Again, it's so murky viewership numbers.
I know.
Is Andor quote unquote a hit? Well, some people will say it is. Some people say it's underviewed, and we don't really know.
I don't really know.
Yeah.
And I mean, the good thing is it is a limited series.
Yep.
They know it's going to be 2 seasons. Yeah. I think that is the right call because, again, it's been so strong. And I just don't... I mean, I want people to watch it because it's fabulous, but I also recognize that it is it's very much Star Wars for adults, but not in the way that, I mean, it's similar in some ways to the way that Game of Thrones is for adults, but it's not sex and violence. It's a lot of political intrigue and talking around what you really mean and relationships between characters. And all of that is, not as present in a lot of Star Wars, which again very much started as a battle of good and evil, and literally the good guys wore white and the bad guys wore black. It was not complicated, and it's gotten increasingly complex as the years have gone on. And I think that the thing that is really nice for me as a contemporary Star Wars fan is that there is a Star Wars for everybody. So if Andor is not somebody's cup of tea, ultimately Andor's success isn't totally incumbent on its own success because it's incumbent on the success of Star Wars as a whole, which is in theme parks, merchandise sales. Right. You know what I mean?
But also Andor's existence is probably a great calling card for other people like Tony Gilroy who might be like, they'll let me do this. And again...
Right, that's going to encourage a lot of other really creative, talented people to want to get involved in Star Wars.
And this is the benefit of the streaming world because they wouldn't do Andor as a movie.
No, they would never do Andor as a movie.
And I was thinking this morning how it's I love The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian is a great Star Wars show. And it's Andor is a fantastic show set within the Star Wars universe.
Absolutely.
And it's canon. Agree. I understand that. I'm just saying it's a different type of show. And we talked before how it can't be what Star Wars always feels like. but I think
it shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be, but the benefit of streaming service existing is like, okay, yeah, we can do this. Like, I have no idea what the Acolyte's going to be like, but I'm very intrigued by that.
I would like to see more stuff like Andor, but that doesn't mean that should be all of Star Wars.
Right. But we're so lucky it does. Yeah.
We're so lucky Andor is what it is.
Yeah. SG Rapna says Luthen does have a little bit of a soul. Otherwise, he wouldn't have hesitated to cut off Bix.
Oh, totally.
And I think it's like,
a
guy who says I have no soul, he has a little soul.
Right.
But he's also just like, I have decided I will let myself do a lot of terrible things.
Yes,
too.
exactly. Yeah. No. And again, that's why you can listen to that speech and have compassion for what he's saying, because he does still have compassion, and it kills him more and more every single time he does something bad, but he's just had to suppress that part of himself and make peace with it.
Right. It's funny because it mentions also that Clea had to convince him. It's like we talked about how Clea seeming like she might almost be the more harsh of the two. Because she's the one who gave the kill order for Cassian so that's a whole kind of funny thing in the background here. I think maybe I'll end it on Brenter here mentioning that Mon equals Ned Stark.
I like this Game
Mon's
of Thrones.
daughter equals Sansa. Davo, his son, equals Joffrey.
Oh, no.
I mean, as far as the players, yes. I mean, again, we've said many times, and we're not alone, that this show is the most Games of Thrones-y of Star Wars, and certainly when you are bartering your children's future,
except my. The thing is, though, is at least Ned Stark certainly struggled with being sure Sansa can marry Joffrey.
Yeah.
Even though technically King Robert was his bestie, but he knew how far gone Robert was.
Yes.
So that's a decent analysis. I can't wait to see if Davo's son really is a Joffrey type.
I lied. I'll throw in one more comment because I actually wanted to mention this earlier and I forgot. So thank you to Tabish Imran, who mentions, are they building Death Star parts in that prison?
Oh, that's right, because they mentioned whatever we're building here, they clearly need.
They clearly need. Again, though, I kind of love if we never find out, because it doesn't matter. It just because their lives were hell, whatever they were building.
Yeah.
And yes, it is probably something important, but the Empire, they're building a lot of important stuff to kill people. You know. So it could be Death Star parts. It could be a lot.
Yeah.
I saw someone on Twitter. I'm sorry, I don't remember the random person I saw say this, but they made a great observation though about the. When there's the overhead shot at the end and they're all swimming away, that the prison itself is shaped very similar to the cog that is the Imperial logo.
Oh,
Nice little touch there.
Yeah, because they were all running down those long hallways.
Yeah. Good freaking stuff.
Good observation.
Yes, good observation to the person I don't remember. But on a great show. So there you go. Yeah. Again, not a 1-to-1, but
that's really very reminiscent
of it for sure.
That's cool.
Thank you, William, for throwing that up there. Guys, that's it for this week of Andor. Oh, so we go into the final 2, which I guess we assume a 2-episode arc. Tony Gilroy returning to write himself.
Yep.
I get to say penultimate right now because next week, and I get to
the
say it next week. The best word. Penultimate episode next week. We'll be talking about it. So be there for that. Thanks for joining us, and stay here for more on Fandom. Farewell.
Bye.
Bye.